When a new graphically intensive game comes out that catches my eye, usually one of three things happen. Number 1. The game runs on one of the good engines by benevolent developers that have a minimum of trust in the final players and therefore have developer consoles for advanced tweaking or rich configuration files. I go into a flurry, caffeinated trance to discover the secrets that lie within, and a video comes out and everyone rejoices. Number 2. The game engine should be pretty tweakable, but the developer actively takes steps to make it hard for people to change configuration files, and I am reduced to desperately trying to figure out what this means while literally hundreds of people scream at me over every public presence I have. Number 3. It is one of those engines where the configuration file basically mirrors the settings screen, and that's it. No advanced configuration files, no debug console, nothing. This is the case for the RE engine, Capcom's newer technological marvel, which powers mostly the newer Resident Evil games and the latest Devil May Cry. It is very optimized, but not exactly tweakable. Nothing mind-blowing in the configuration file. So when that happens, I save the video idea for further research and watch as every channel I like does videos about the game and then move on to whatever else the hype cycle demands. But occasionally, something happens that just breaks open the game for us low-spec enthusiasts, like a piñata of low graphics? This was a terrible analogy. Devil May Cry 5 came out over a year ago, to fantastic reviews, and quickly became one of my favorite games of 2019, mainly due to just how good its gameplay was, but also because it is extremely well optimized. Even though it uses the Nubo DRM, which is cause for worry regarding its CPU usage, the game is so light on the CPU that you have to force some really specific circumstances for the DRM to matter. And even on a relatively weak GPU like the overclocked Vega 3 integrated graphics on the Athlon 3000G, the game performs well enough on the lowest settings that I can constantly recommend it to people with modern entry-level systems. Now, what if that is not enough? What if you're using an older or weaker integrated GPU? What if you just want to see what happens to the game when forced lower anyway? Well now there's this, the aptly named DMC5 Performance Mod by Deep Dark Kaputska. What does this mod do? It can do a lot of things. Let me show you. Let's start off with something simple like disable light probe, a technique used to allow complex lighting in specific points or moving objects. You would just notice this as small differences in the realism of the light. A bit more obvious are cube maps, a very known and tested way of getting reflections in games, and now they're gone. Not bad, one more step. There's a pervasive fog effect in a lot of levels that you don't really notice until you remove it, which this mod can also do. Something more obvious is dynamic shadows. Like every modern game, this one has lots of them, and like every modern game, there is no option to disable them. But this mod makes it possible. This is probably one of the biggest contributors to performance gains. Okay, good times are done. Bring out the big guns. Like most modern games, this game uses level of detail to load lower poly models farther from the camera to save our resources, and yes, this mod allows you to force the lowest poly models all the time. Yes! As you will notice, however, not all models reduce the same. Things like character faces are mostly preserved, while things like weapons are more dramatically reduced. Do you think that is invasive? Think again. There's an option to disable ambient lighting in the sky and just the entire skybox. What? This is by far the most destructive of changes, and not just because of the black void of nothingness in the sky, but the lack of ambient lighting makes everything look rather flat and dark. So only use this one if you are desperate. Thankfully, you can control which things you want to disable. You install this mod by moving 2 files into the installation folder of the game, and technically, performance.ini should have lines that control all the things you can disable. In practice, in all the computers I tested, the ini files seem to be ignored, and everything will always be enabled on boot. So either I'm doing something wrong or the game updated and broke something. Either way, you can re-enable or disable effects using a set of hotkeys included in the mod page, or in the screen right now. You might have to reload a checkpoint to force the game to apply the changes after using the hotkey, but this is the method I use to test and it works like a charm. And applying all the changes, even the weird ones, has a tremendous effect on performance that you can see right now on my Athlon 3000G test computer with no overclocking. This computer is not a huge surprise, simply because the chip, when overclocked, could run the game just fine already. But this is still a very interesting test, especially because it serves to demonstrate not only the impressive gains, but also the dramatic reduction. I would say things like the lack of shadows or even some of the low poly models could be ignored, but the changes to illumination are really much harder to follow, so you can re-enable that if you need it back. But what if there's no option? To complete the test, I dropped the same settings to 720p and ran this on an Intel UHD 620 of my laptop. And it works! It kinda works. It was definitely able to keep over 30 FPS, which is perfectly playable for this game. I would probably do great with a 30 FPS lock. At this level, honestly, the blurriness caused by the forced anti-aliasing combined with a low resolution bothers me more than the low LOD or lack of ambient light, and without those tweaks, this game will not nearly be displayable. So even if a bit ridiculous, there's a logic to this madness. So hopefully that helped you, and subscribe if you want to support me in covering this weird side of gaming that is so easily ignored. Oh wait, would you happen to also speak Spanish as well? En ese caso, te comento rápidamente que he estado usando el confinamiento para empezar un podcast con mi amigo Enrique Colinet, diseñador de niveles para juegos como Spec Ops The Line o Blasphemous, donde examinamos tópicos de gaming desde dos lados, yo como youtuber, él como desarrollador. Lo he mantenido un poco secreto ahora, pero la verdad es que se ha transformado en un proyecto bastante interesante, así que si quieres escucharlo, dejo el enlace en la descripción.